Well, hi everybody. We have quite a task ahead of us tonight, and that is to learn how to model Carinthia University of Applied Sciences here in the south part of Austria. And it's um, it's not all that easy. Let's see, we're going to be going there this summer and probably going down from Essen, Germany. So just let's see where this is in relation to where my kids live. Yeah, so it's a long way down, 10 hours by train, and must have passed through Salzburg and Munich. So there's where it is. And to model this so that we can have virtual meetings will require some skills here. So what's the first thing that we want to do? Well, fortunately, Blender with its GIS plugin gives us a bunch of great options. So let's start there. So let's launch Blender. And once we have Blender and we have the Blender GIS plugin installed, then we should just be able to type in the name of the university and find it. So here we are in Blender, and we are not going to update that Blender kit. So there we go. So the first thing, we have Blender GIS installed, and we're going to go to Web Geodata, go to the base map as usual, use Google Satellite, and come in here and hit G for go to, and say Carinthia University, Austria. Set our zoom level to about 19, say OK, and wait for the tiles to download. There we are. There's the university. And really, we're going to focus on modeling this energy building here and the campus there. There's obviously a big building here with solar panels on the roof, very nice to see. We're not going to include those because we don't have the CPU capacity. So we're going to focus on this area right here, and so we hit E for extrude, and that gives us a extrusion of that, an extent rather, not an extrusion. Hit number 7 to go back to the view from the top. Now go back to GIS. Oh, save, always save. So let's save as, and let's put this on our QGIS, and let's call this Carinthia. All right. So there's Carinthia. Now go up to GIS again, and this time bring in the elevation, not the OSM. Don't go in the order that it's shown here. Get the elevation. We're going to use Open Topography's 30 meter. We have an API key that we got from the Open Topography site. Let's put in, say OK, and we'll get some of the contours of the land. That is the digital elevation map. So let that do its thing. Doesn't look like it's done anything, but if you turn around, you'll see it's no longer on the base of the origin, 0, 0. It's up floating in the air because it has altitude, and it has contour, as you can see looking at it like that. Now, it's not very exaggerated, so if you wanted to make it more powerful for the game to exaggerate, we would go over here to the modifiers, see that the DEM has come in, and we would increase the strength maybe to about 2.5. So now, of course, it's gone up higher than it should, but it does show that it slopes down to the river, as it should. All right, that gives us a bit of things like that. So then, if you like that, you can apply it. Let's not apply it yet, but let's see if we can grab this. Before we do anything else, because it's been elevated and exaggerated, we're now going to go to GIS again. You should go in the bird's eye view to do that by hitting the 7 key, select it, and then go and let us get the OpenStreetMap buildings. So let's look at that and get the elevation from the object, which is coming from the satellite view. The default height for the buildings, well, ChatGPT was looking at the pictures with me, and just want to share with you that while you must check this, I put in all these pictures and I talked to it, and it said that it probably has, let's see where it says it, the height is, gave me a lot of recommendations. So about 13.2 meters is, with the parapet, it's 14 meters total height. And it was getting that idea from the map when you look at this location and you look at the stories and the parapet. So it was figuring it's about 14 meters. And this is what we have to work with here. The nice thing is that when you're building buildings in this, you can often find, for advanced economies, you can find street map and look around the buildings so you can do a better job of modeling it. So let's set that height to 14. Oh, the question is, are we on meters or are we on, what are we on? So you need to go to the settings. I am on meters, as you can see here. M for meters. All right. And to find out if you are on that, so to make sure if you're not in meters, then what you would do is go down here to this cone here. This is called scene properties, and open up units. And then you can pick whether it's metric or imperial, and unit scale, and then rotation degrees, kilograms, seconds, Kelvin. Do try to work with meters if you can. So once again, we're going to go into GIS Web Geodata, and we're going to get the OpenStreetMap now as our third thing. Pick buildings, do buildings extrusion, get elevation from object so it conforms to the elevation that we just created, and set the default height to 14 meters. And let's not separate objects right now. We'll do that later. So you get buildings now, which is grand, right? Gives you a good start. They're not pretty, and you can see they do conform to the landscape such as we have it. So that's good. All right, let's save this. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a copy of this. So this is scene, and I call this scene 1 GIS import, so that I know that. And then I'm going to click on this and say I want to do a full copy. And this will be GIS import copy. And I'll work in the copy so I don't mess anything up. So this is scene GIS import, and this is copy. For the game, I don't want to be so high up in the world. So in this copy, I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to hit G and Z, and I'm going to move it down to sea level. So I'm not doing the rest of the world. Okay? And if you really want to make sure it's at sea level, then you look at the Z location up here, and you should just put it at 0 meters. But it didn't do the landscape. Why? Because we didn't bake in the DEM. Now, if we go back to the first scene, it's all still up in the air, or it's why we're working in a copy. If we select this and we go to our modifier and we tell it to apply, ooh, yick, that isn't what I wanted. It's that. Stop the distortion. So maybe I need to apply this modifier. There we go. Now, can I move this down? Not necessarily. Let me apply this and see what happens. Yes. So that was the order to apply them. Now that I have that, I can bring this down in Z to the ground, and it's going to be negative whatever that, whatever the original thing was. So you can go over here and look at how high was it. It was set at, let's see, We don't have a height for it, or do we? No, we don't. Okay, so we don't know how high it was. I should pay attention to that, so I'm going to just have to eyeball it and bring this to hit G and Z and bring this up. And now we have this at sea level. And you can play with it to try to get it where you want it to be relative to the buildings. That will work. And then you can lock it so that you're not accidentally messing with it. And go ahead and save. All right, so the next challenge we have is to get our buildings, right? And to make them really work. So how to do that? So the best way to do that, oh, look at this. I want to see if I move the buildings. Let me go on 7 here. Are we, let me hit G and Y. The buildings didn't come in perfectly, so now let's go G and X. And then G and Y. So I'm moving these buildings around to try to get them to match. I wonder if that is true also of the, if that is true of everything, that it got kind of messed up. Yes, that's pretty good. There's shadows and stuff. All right, so this is the building that we're trying to model. Now, notice that it clips, meaning we don't see the under background. That is a classic problem that you have when you first bring in terrains in Blunder, that stuff clips in the view. So here, go to View and make your clip start as few meters as you can, and your clip end as high as you can, and then it doesn't clip like that anymore. Okay? It does take up more memory. There's a good clip like that. That's interesting. All right. Sometimes that is because you clipped too shallow. So you can mess with the clip on that. You can see that. All right. So now, how do you model this? Well, this is where you can do several things. I'll show you one that we're not going to do much of, but I'll show you a technique which involves UV mapping. So if I go to UV editing, and actually I need to get into edit mode, and I take this surface here, so select surface, and say this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Make sure I grab everything in here. So if I grab these surfaces and I tell this, you know what, I want you to unwrap these. And actually what I need to do to unwrap them first, there we go, is I need to separate them to their own surface. So I'm going to hit P. I'm going to say separate selection. Now that is its own selection. When I go into object mode, that's its own thing. Right? So now I can go into UV editing and select that part. It should be all of it. So there it is. And it does this unwrap thing, but I'm going to go subdivide. No, I want to do unwrap. Maybe an unwrap I need to be. Yes, I must be in UV editing. Where's unwrap? So here. There's that one there. go back into edit, and then we can do UV, and then unwrap, or smart UV project. Let's just do unwrap. And I mean, I guess it just get unwrapped, so that's what it did. The other one that I'm going to unwrap is I'm going to go back into the object mode, which is not showing up here until I go here to object mode, and I've got the roof, and I need to separate the roof. So I'm selecting this entire object. I'm hitting tab to go into edit. I'm going to select just the roof. I'm going to hit P to separate by selection. Now I have another piece, which when I go back into object mode, that's that piece, and it's over here. Let me give it the name of Carinthia roof, and this one here is now Carinthia front. Those are the two pieces I'm most interested right now. And if I go to my edit mode, I can select this and unwrap this, and there's the roof. All right. What this is doing is it's taking the object and making it so you can map pictures or textures on it. And with this, if I now go back to my satellite image, and let's go into here and close this down. If I now go to Carinthia, I've got to get rid of all that stuff. So sometimes this is a bit of a pain doing it from this, because you have marks on here, which we don't necessarily want. So this is where you're really better off going into your Blunder file and going to back to the object mode and look at your textures and turn off the Carinthia roof so you can see the actual building as it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that texture on the roof of the building. But as you see here, it's not, the whole building is not sized properly. So I've selected everything, but I've really got to select just the building if I'm going to work with it. So this rest of the building here needs to be separated out as well. And that would be going into edit mode and selecting these parts here and here, literally everything that you can see there and there. Those are the other parts of the building, and then hit P to separate that selection, and then it becomes part of the building that is known as the Carinthia rest of building. And you'll note that this other thing here is everything else. So these are all the other buildings. So that's just areas of buildings. We'll keep that. So there's the roof, there's the front, and there's the rest of the building. Now, if I select all three of these and I look down, hitting 7, I can scale this out, but it's scaling weird, and what I want to do is scale it not in global, but in local. When I scale in local, what that means is that I have its own, when I say scale in X, I can scale this way. When I say scale in Y, it's not, the center isn't in the right position either. So how about if we take the object and set the origin to the geometry, And then if we scale it in using universal, global, normal, gimbal, view. Let's try global here again. Scale this in Y. No, it's still using the wrong Y. Scale it in Z is obviously up and down. What if we do scale by view and then scale it? Yeah. It's a little bit distorted. So sometimes you have to work on your scaling and figure out what the best way to it is. I'm going to look at normal parent cursor. We put the cursor, and it may be that I'm scaling it poorly because I'm trying to grab 3 different pieces now. So let's make it a little bit bigger. That's a bit better. All right, so let's go back down to see what we were doing with this roof. So we're looking at this, and we're taking this image, turn off the rest of the buildings, and say, take this bounding box. But here, really, what we're going to do is so what we have is we have to get this image over here, and we do that by going over to this image and say, well, we're using the Google satellite, and then that comes in. But now we have to rotate the building and make sure that we have it mapped on properly. So you scale this down. The scaling is always going to be the issue. You scale it down a little more. It looks like, actually, I've got it flipped around. I need to rotate this on the z-axis, flip it around like that. I need to grab these 2 vertices here. Oh, first we've got to sort of compress this down. So scale it down a little bit more, and scale it, move it. And so you just do a lot of messing around with the scale of things. So you grab all these points here. By the way, you can use the C button to create a brush. And then let's scale this in, this is getting really kludgy. Scale without in G. So that's good enough for now. So we have this scaled out there, and then we would assign it to the mesh. So we have a material, and we have a base color for that material, and we're going to use the image texture. And then for that image texture, we're going to take the image which we have to download, save as, and we'll call this Carinthia roof, and find the appropriate folder. And now we can open that Carinthia roof. Bingo, we have it there. We've just lifted that up there. So now we have to do the same thing for the front, but we don't have a front, right? That's the issue. We don't have a front. So to get this front picture on down here, which we will do in object mode, yes. All right, so let's try to do the front face, which is going to be a little more complex. And to do that, because we don't have a reference image here, we're going to have to bring one in. So let's go over to the Google Street Map here, and let's see if we can find an appropriate image. So here's Street Map. Now we can get in over to here. It's not great. Let's come back a little bit. Let's see if there's anything that's even worse. So it may be difficult. That may be the best. We can't really get a front view. This seems to be the best front view that they have of this part of it. So we can try it in stages. So let's get this for sure. So let's take and do a snip of this. And let's save that in our folder. Call this front Carinthia. And then let's see if there's another image that they've taken. Yeah, not really. Not really. So Street View is going to be probably the best we can get if we get to maybe here. Maybe we can apply the texture actually of one building to all the buildings. So let's grab this. And we'll call this Carinthia building front. Front Carinthia building front. All right. Now let's go back to Blender and let's see what happens if we add an image. So open an image and let's do, where is it? I thought we'd saved it in the right place. Maybe we didn't. So let me look again at where I've been storing these. When I do save as, where are these ending up? Downloads. Oh, downloads Carinthia. So yeah. So I didn't put it in the right place. So let me go into here and grab my Carinthia folder in downloads. And let's cut this. And let's bring it into our E drive. And paste it there. Alright, I'm actually going to call it Carinthia images. So now I should be able to get Carinthia images, and we do front Carinthia, and let's open that image there. And so when we unwrap this, we're going to come into edit mode and take the portion that, I know I'm thinking, well, kind of hard. So let's take this and rotate this, I believe it's that, and come over here. So you really need to know like what surface is what. So this surface is there, so it's actually flipped. So let me select it all again and rotate this that way. So you can see the method in this. And we say, well, that part there belongs way over here. It's off the map. And this part here actually belongs here and really belongs up. You'd have to grab these two and row them up like that, and then grab these. So we're going to get a really awkward image when you think about it. This part here is recessed in here, and it's this looking like that. So you can kind of stretch these to kind of cover the image. And we'll probably abandon this in the end. There is a side here, but that side is inside the image here and really has little relevance. We're not really going to get much out of this. It would be this high and it would be this low, but yeah, really it's not relevant at all. So just make that really thin in there. This surface here is of course the big one, and we can grab this and stretch it out to there, and this one stretch it out to there, and this one stretch it to there, and this one and stretch it to there. Probably get more. It's going to lose some stuff. So there, okay, we got that. Then, of course, there's this part, which is going to be from here. Here, I'm using the G key, by the way, to grab. So click on each vertex. And then this part in here, of course, is here. Again, we're not going to be seeing that, but we might as well place it, and then it may pick up some of the color. And then we have, so we got that part there, we got this here, which is going to be here, and it's kind of angled there, and there, and there. Right? Get that sort of perspective going. And then you got this piece here, which is literally off the map for this. And you have this piece here, which is also off the map, somewhere out there. What does that end up looking like? Well, it should look like when we go into object mode and we assign this, once again we must go to material and create a material for this whole thing. We need to give it an image texture, and for that image texture we need to open the Carinthia, front Carinthia that we had. Not now. Here we go. No, I cannot. Sweetheart. Now, is this ideal? Absolutely not. And as you can see, there's a lot of problems with the very geometry of this, which we haven't even dealt with because of the way that these buildings are blocked. But is this somewhat workable so that you could walk around in this? Yeah, you could. I mean, if you were just wanting to say, okay, I need to do just a little bit of work on this, you could. And let's go back to our other image where if we take the if we add an image, which is the building front, this one here, and we were to take this and say, hey, you know what? I really want to break this apart. So edit, this surface and this surface could be separated P by selection. They become their own surface, and we call this Carinthia front. What is that? Well, right on the screen, left of the building, so it's front left of the building. And you would also do the same thing here. You'd take this and you'd say, okay, separate that part of the building to P by selection and call this Carinthia front right. And then when you actually go to map it, you would go then to UV unwrap. But of course it didn't work because we are not in it. You go to object mode first and pick it. So we pick this one and we say object mode, edit mode now, select the whole thing. It is already unwrapped, and say, okay, great. Then we're going to grab this part of it, go from here to here to here and to here. But it's not using the right map. So hold on. We need to tell it which map it needs to use, and that's by assigning it a new material. Because this is the old material, you can see it's still stretching over this. That's what you're seeing over there. And that's not what we want. We want this part. So we're going to delete this material, which I guess it's going to tell us cannot be done in edit mode. So we go into object mode and say, you know what, I want you out of here. Create a new material, base color, make it an image texture, and then open up that Carinthia building front. There we go. That's what it's going to be using. Now go back into edit mode. We actually have two pieces, and I think that's inconvenient because it would be nice if we could have used it as one big piece. Maybe because these are what they are, maybe we can unsubdivide. Oh, that's ugly. That's really, ooh, didn't like that. No, don't do that. Is there a way to dissolve these vertices? So let me see if there's a way to merge, dissolve vertices. Oh, it didn't work either. Excuse me. Can't. So yeah, I made a mistake there. To dissolve vertices, so I'm trying to see what I can do here. Dissolve vertices, yeah, not too good. Not really good. I select both of those. Ah, that worked. All right, so now let's go back to here. Now it's just one surface, and so I can grab this, stretch this down, and while it doesn't look anything like the real building, at least now we have a better surface there. And we can do the same thing with this one. Let's get out of edit mode and go to object mode here. Again, you need to delete this material, and then we need to make a new material, set the base color to image texture, pick our image texture, which is Carinthia building front. We're going to use the same one on both sides because we couldn't get at the other. And now grab this, which means go into edit mode and select it. And there it is. And stretch this. Right, so you get a sort of a reasonable approximation of what the building looks like. And for many people that would suffice. You'd say, okay, that's what we're looking at. There it is. So we started out here, and then we go, okay, zoom down, and boom, you have the beginning of what looks like a building that can be moved around. Then you can add items with like Blunder kit, like a car. If we come here and we say, let me save this, of course. Save this and make the filter be free first, and then make sure the file size is pretty small. All right, and then that looks very European. I think that's kind of cool. So download the car. Where did the car go? Let's see. Oh, there it is. Cartoon wagon car. There it is. It must be underground or something. There it is. All right. And drag this over. Oh, it's not. Why isn't it doing what I want it to do? take that car and drag it onto the road, bring it down, and it should have a texture. There it is. All right, so you know, you begin to be able to model something that you can walk around and play around with, right? So that's kind of fun. This has, by the way, it has a lot of stuff in it that you have to separate out. So you use Alt-P to clear the parent and keep the transformation, and then technically when you grab on that axis, ooh, didn't delete that, sorry. How do you delete that part? That door, there's the seat, camera object we need to get rid of, and the cube, the wheel, they're all in there. So there's something about this, oh, it's still joined to it. So Alt-P, clear parent, maybe it should be clear parent inverse. Let's see now what we can do. Got the car, got the parent, and no, it's still stuck to it. Well, it's not going to show up when we move it around. But you can now do sort of fun things where you can grab the car and you can make it drive down the road by coming here and hitting a keyframe, and then here, and then moving. So that's at 0 frame. And then move it over here and drive it over to there. And make a keyframe by hitting I, and then the car travels and then turns a little bit in the z-axis, and it drives on the road and move it in the y-axis. So sometimes we can have some trouble with these things. So move it over to there, and then move it in z up and rotate it in z a bit more, and move it in y, move it in x. See, yeah, something like that. And put a keyframe, and then when you zoom in on it, you know, you can start making little movies where the car drives in front of the building. All right, so that's it for now. What we're gonna end up doing is modeling this building by ourselves without using the Google OSM or the Blender GIS OSM, because it's not giving us what the building really looks like, and that is so obvious when we actually look. This is a lot different than the geometry that we have. So I guess I can show it, just a teaser on that of what that would look like. I'll go to make a copy of this one now. So let's do a full copy. And we're in the full copy now. Copy, let's say Carinthia hand model. So let's go to there, and in this hand model, we can basically obliterate a lot of this, and so we're going to delete what we've got here. So goodbye to you, goodbye to you, goodbye to you, goodbye to you, and instead, when we go into 7, we'll do several different boxes. So we're going to add a mesh cube and take that cube and rotate it and scale it. You'll see my method in a minute. So bring this up like that, and let's make it as we were doing. Let's make it 14 meters high. So the dimensions, that's 25. Let's make it 14, and let's rotate it and bring it to here. then scale it in the. See, now here's where the what I was trying to show earlier, that we want to be able to work in global, not local. So where's my modeling? Do it in local. Now GY is that way, and GX is that way. So scale X is going to scale better like that. And then let's duplicate it and bring one of these blocks here, rotate it slightly. And another way of scaling it, so that's got to be brought down, is to go into edit mode with tab, go into the wire mesh. That way you can select just the faces you want, and then go G, and this is local X. That's going to be here. Let's see. Yeah. So now we're going G and local X. Right. So we're getting a little bit better in terms of bringing in those buildings. Then we can assume that this is the same thing. So a Shift D and then a G and Y will move this over to here. And the same thing, a Shift D and then GY and then move that over here. This is a lot more precise to do it that way. So you can grab this, do a Shift D and move it over in Y, but then you can come in and manipulate this through the edit key with tab, grab your vertices just here like this, come back and say, all right, G in X, and we bring that to here, and this face here, we would come in and say, let's do that face, and let's do G in X, no, G in Y, and bring that like this. And of course it's too high, so you would then tab into this and scale this down in Z. We don't know how far to do it, but it'll be a little bit cleaner like that. And we'll tweak this model later on, but I think now you can see that if we come here and we go to our UV editing and we say this face here is what we are going to unwrap. I guess it already was unwrapped for some reason. I don't know why. It was. I shouldn't have unwrapped that, so let's go Control Z. Oh well, yeah, it's the whole thing here. So now if I bring this to here and grab this and go like this, and this and go like this, and this and go like this, now I can assign this material to this cube, and it will be assigned to an image texture, and the image texture will be building front. And thank you.
Keep those there.
Okay, keep those there. What is disturbing here?
Okay, Daddy.
No.
Which object I put on your desk looks like this rocket?
What looks like this rocket? This one here.
This looks the most like
that looks the most like. Okay. So now we've got the problem with the unwrapping is that I didn't separate out materials. So again, I would come in here and I'd say, you know what? This surface here, using P, separate by selection, it becomes its own object, and I'll call it building from
Hey, does this look like
left. Yep.
Hey, does this look like the fire that the rocket is shooting out?
Yeah, when it's like that. Okay, so now this material is the same material, but when we unwrap this by going to tab, selecting this, and now going to edit mode, and we select this, now we should be able to unwrap that better, and then we obviously have to kind of rotate this. So that is the proper way, and then that goes to there, this goes to here, this goes to here, this goes to here. What makes this look awkward is that the building shape seems to be really wrong here, or maybe it's just not tall enough relative to the other stuff, which would imply then that the building is much higher than I thought. So if I were to, for one thing, I've got to take the whole building, and this has got to be selected together, move it up, right? It wasn't up, but it also should be probably taller, and if we scale it in Z, we're going to get a more satisfactory looking result. But we're going to have to try all this and make it work with, with the cars. The cars are always the way that we make decisions about these things. So let's drop this one down. Oh, we didn't get the whole building. Oopsie. Let's take that, Shift D, and move it over, G and Y, and then drop it down. All right, so now we're getting something that's a little bit closer to what we want. For this one here, once again, you would pick the image, which would be front of Carinthia, and take this and go to edit mode, select the front surface, and I suppose we might be able to keep it as part of the building. Let's see if we can do that. It would need a new material. It would need an image texture. It would need to open the building front. Oh no, that's not the one. It is what we want is front Carinthia. There we go. And in the unwrapping, you can see what each piece is going for. This one here would have to be rotated. Gotta grab all of it. Okay. Rotate it. There we go. And stretch it over and over. So it really would be all of this. And then grab this and this and stretch it over. So there. And then of course the whole building, when we go to object mode, should be lifted up. And relative to all this, it looks like it's a bit small, so we probably want to scale it in Z. And maybe we shouldn't have made the terrain so bumpy. That's part of the problem. We've got the slope going down here, so we probably shouldn't have done that. We're going to end up with all these different things, like here for this surface. If we go to the edit mode and we say, well, what is this surface supposed to be mapped on? Well, it doesn't want that material, and it won't let me undo that material. So I've got to take this and load in the export Google map and identify that this is going to be what we're putting here, but it's not assigned right. So to get this to work, I have to add a material and move this material down, like so. This material will be new. This one will have the image, that comes from the Carinthia roof. All right. Now I will load so I can see it. Carinthia roof. Oh, we don't even have Carinthia roof here. Right, so let's bring in Carinthia roof. That's Carinthia roof. All right, well, that's Carinthia roof. And if I'm using Carinthia roof, why is this still showing up? It will not let me delete it. So I'm going to go back into object mode. I think what's going to happen is things are going to get messed up because, oh, I think I know what to do. Let's stay in edit mode. I don't want to separate the model. I want to see if I can assign to this surface. There we go. Assign that surface there. Whereas on this one, I've assigned this surface. So now it's just a matter of taking this image and stretching it in and taking it here and use the C key to select vertices and select them in and these vertices here, bring them back. Sticking. And obviously you can now begin to compare and say, well, no, this is actually just this part of the roof there. All right. So now we're getting a little bit closer to what the building looked like. And the same thing for the tops of these boxes here. When you go and you edit, you can choose that top box and you can say, you know what, I really want to add a material to you. And that material is going to be, again, the image texture, and the image that's going to use is going to be a roof. And I'm going to assign it to there and then grab my piece and bring it onto here, rotate it, scale it down, and scale it down still further. Something like that. Scale it still down further as we begin to get the roof going. Same thing with this one. Let's grab this part. Let's go into edit. Select this. Let's make a new material. Or actually, we have the material. It's somewhere. We actually looked at what this one had. So you don't have to make new materials all the time. Look, this here has a material called Material 9. We probably should have labeled it, you know, Carinthia roof front.
They move your hands.
Left.
They move your hands. I need to put these cards.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Here.
So then when I go into this one here, then the material that I can select, I don't need that. I can add from here, I can add a material. So I can go to there and say I want Carinthia front roof and then assign that when I go into edit mode. And say, look, I want to have that. And then once again, grab it, grab all that and move it over here and shrink it down and rotate it and move it here and shrink it down and rotate it. Thank you, son.
Let me put this
Around that way.
Let me put this.
Where you put it? Not on my computer. Put it over here. Thank you. Very nicely done.
You broke it!
Yeah, I did. That's what happened.
Hey!
Fixed. Now it's fixed. Right, and then finally, look at what we're doing here.
Now you're gonna do the game.
I'm gonna do it again. So then rotate it like that. And maybe move it in a little bit more. Maybe shrink it down a little bit more.
Daddy,
all right, so that begins to give you a much better view of what that building would look like than what we had. Let me save this. But what we had before when we were just using what Google OSM gave us. in
What game do you
this
think
one here,
this
right? Because
is?
that's not the way the building really looks.
Dad, what,
So it really is more
Dad,
that.
what game do you
And we'll
think
have
this
to model the
is?
back buildings, and then
Dad,
we'll be
what game do you
pretty
think
much
this is?
on our way. All right? The more detail you do, the better it gets.
Daddy,
All right. Thanks a lot.
Daddy, what game
Bye-bye.
do you think this is?
I don't know.